Alright, so this was a video request. You guys have topics or things you want me to cover, please let me know. I'll be happy to do a video on them for you. So this is a very simple guide about natural lights, artificial lights, EMF essentially. And this is going to be very simple and easy to understand. We're not going to get bogged down in a lot of mumbo jumbo, convoluted terms and descriptions and make believe, essentially, like a lot of people do. Because at the end of the day, it really isn't important. And what is simple is true. And it's also easy to understand, right? So light, EMF, obviously, natural light is better than artificial light, full stop. We don't need to go into why artificial light is bad. It's not really important. It's bad. We know it's bad. Incandescent bulbs are better than LEDs. Let me put a small s there. So, incandescent lighting is still not good. It's still artificial light, but it is significantly less damaging than LED lights. Now, there are full spectrum, low, no flicker LED lighting solutions, but I'm skeptical of these. They're also very expensive and hard to find. They are also usually more geared towards specific lighting solutions for photography, that sort of thing. Because there is a difference with the lighting. For instance, an LED bulb and an incandescent bulb. You see the LED bulb street lights, car headlights, whatever, you see these. They're like a white. They're like a blinding white light. Incandescent street lights, headlights, they're a little easier on the eyes. They're a little more yellow. I kind of remember when the sun used to be yellow. That's a different topic. Don't use dimmers. And this will segue into the third slide about EMF. So when you have dimmers in your light switches or in your light bulbs, they can increase the flicker and increase the EMF field around these devices, the switches and the light bulbs themselves. So pretty easy. Obviously you can go use candles. You can find some non-toxic candles to light your abode at night. Fireplace, great option. Okay, obviously, yes, there are those options, but they do pose, fire risks, obviously. They have those 18th century little glass covers for candles and such, how those very aesthetic, and they help reduce the fire risk. Oil lamps, things like that. That those are natural sources of lighting. Of course, you have to deal with what's burning off of them. Even natural candles are emitting something you're breathing. So, it's a trade-off. There's always a trade-off, right? That's pretty much it here. That's pretty much all I need to say. Blue light blockers, I don't have mine on now, of course, but very, very good to use at night if you're driving, streetlights, headlights. If you're in office buildings or any sort of building where there's no natural light and it's just LEDs or fluorescent bulbs, you want to have your blue light blockers on, even if it's middle of the day, because you want to filter out that toxic blue light, okay? You don't want that going into your eyes, so just keep the glasses on. That's what I do. Works pretty well. I notice a big difference when I'm in those spaces and I forget my glasses or don't have them on me. It's much more obtrusive and afflicting. So have a pair of blue light blockers on you. Keep them in the car. Keep a pair at home. You can buy them cheap. They're $20 on Amazon. Not hard to find. They're basically all made of the same stuff. You don't need to go spend 60, 80, 100, $300 on a pair. That's ridiculous. Okay. So the sun. The sun is the best source of natural light. You want to get as much sun as possible. Now, you can get sunburned, even on this diet. And that's if you don't have a resiliency to the sun. If you don't have a good fats on your skin, it's going to be much harder on your body. But you know, it's not like you can go out into the sun for 8 hours every day all the time. You're probably going to get a little burned. It's just the way it is. So you need to build up to that and have healthy fats and meats in your diet. If you don't get 30 minutes of sunlight a day, at least, you're not going to get the full advantages of this diet. Augenis has said this. A lot of people say, you know, especially these quantards, that Augenis was just a food guru. He's just a food guru. He never talked about the EMF. He never talked about artificial lighting. But he did. He did talk about how fluorescent lighting isn't good. He talked about the other harms of EMF, which I'll get into in the next slide. He talked about the sun quote. I just said 30 minutes of sun at least a day, minimum, to get any advantage of this diet. You need to get the sunlight. 30 minutes at least. So, you know, he is someone, yes, who used food in very unique, beneficial ways. But let's not ignore how he talked about EMFs and artificial lighting, which LED lighting was on set just after he died. So it was kind of like he can't talk about it because it wasn't proliferated like it was now. So, like it is now. So the sunrise and sunset are both important, but at least get the sunset. I think everybody can get the sunset. Some people, they have a unique circadian rhythm where they're night owls, right? This isn't an anomaly. I don't think it's unhealthy to be a night owl. Obviously, there are reasons why people are night owls and why people can be up at night. I myself am a night owl. I've also practiced biphasic sleep, so sleeping in 2 phases. I would sleep after sunset for 4 hours, and then I would wake up for several hours, and then when I would get tired, I would go back to sleep. Biphasic sleep, you can look that up. It's something people used to do. You know, there's nights you go out when the moon is very bright and you can't sleep. And the moon is so bright, it's almost like having daylight, and you can actually like do things. So I don't think that it's necessary that all humans are supposed to do sunrise and sunset. I think there's some leeway in there, but I definitely think the sunset, at least getting the sunset, is the most important because it helps. It's that unique blend of light. It helps set your system up for sleep. I'm not saying sunrise is not important, but I'm just being cognizant of people who have different rhythms, who are night owls, who may not wake up to catch the first hour of the sunrise, right? Any sunlight you can get is good, and this segues into the next one. So EMF. So avoid all EMF as much as possible. Pretty simple, guys. If you're worried about cell phone towers, you want to live at least a mile away from cell phone towers, okay? That's bare minimum. Use your speakerphone when possible. Use wired headphones, okay? Don't ride in electric vehicles. Don't buy an electric vehicle. Those are a death trap. I know people who used to have one and they had terrible health problems, headaches and nausea, all this stuff. And then when they got rid of their EV, it all went away. Turn your breaker box off at night. If you're able to, I would suggest eliminating your breaker box at night. Turn the switch off. That will cut all the electric current in your house. So that's above and beyond turning off your Wi-Fi at night, etc. Maybe you need to have electricity at night for some reason. Um, okay, yeah, fine, but turn the Wi-Fi off at night. It's good too. So sleeping away from switches and outlets also important. I talked earlier about the the dimming. So yeah, if you have dimmers installed in your switches, that's going to generate more of an electric field. Depending on how well these things are wired, they're gonna emit more dirty EMF, a dirtier field because they're not wired correctly. So it pays to have somebody wire this stuff correctly in your house if possible. Like I said, if you have the breaker box off at night, it eliminates needing to distance yourself from those for the most part. You want to ground and sun to offset exposure to EMFs. That's the best way to mitigate that. Especially with screens and stuff, always a good idea to wear blue light blockers, use programs like Flux. You can buy shields and screens for your devices. I would recommend that. Of course, if you're doing any sort of design work, it can be frustrating to use this tech because you need to see the colors as they really are. So that's annoying, but sometimes you got to work that way. Grounding mats. Speaking of grounding, I think are mostly a scam. I think the efficacy of grounding mats is not conclusive. It's not very compelling. It's never as good as going out to the earth. I know there's setups you can do where you run a copper wire out into the ground, and that's good. I mean, that's better than using a grounding mat for sure. But yeah, if you're going to do that, there's tons of guides and things online as to how to fashion that. I'm not going to go into that here, but definitely worth considering if you have the motivation to do it. Let's see here. Yeah, so EMF, aside from the things I listed here, we're also talking about TVs, radio towers, which are similar to cell phone towers, but not exactly the same. The 5G towers, which technically are cell phone towers too. Um, you can see those. What do they call them? Junction boxes. If you see those gray or green boxes, it's usually where the internet comes in for your neighborhood. So you don't want to be close to those. High tension wires, electric wires, as far away as possible. Get an EMF meter. The tri-field's pretty good, I guess. I don't really dabble too much into that. I just kind of use my brain to know what is in my environment and where, and to stay away from it. I don't need to measure all the outlets in my house, to know that they're emitting EMF, and I want to stay as far away as possible from them, and I don't want to sleep next to them. I don't need to use an EMF meter on my laptop because I know it's emitting lots of EMF. I don't need to put an EMF meter. You know, the instances where it can be very beneficial is ambient room around your house where you're sleeping or living, spending a lot of time. Because there might be electric wires or something you're not tuned in with, like a cell phone tower, you're not really paying attention, or that kind of stuff. And just in general, the wiring in your house, the wiring, it should all be good, but a lot of times it isn't. So that's why I recommend turning the breaker box off at night, because they don't really have to worry about this stuff. Same with turning the Wi-Fi off. So this is pretty much enough to get you started and give you a good idea about why to avoid EMF, how to avoid EMF, some very simple mitigation strategies, and why you need to get more sunlight, because it helps offset these. It also helps your body just function properly. So, good thing to get sunlight and get rid of LEDs. You can find red light bulbs, incandescent bulbs, on Amazon and other stores online. I would do more research about the LEDs. I'm linking 2 videos by Ken Wheeler, also known as Theoria Apophasis, on YouTube. He's an expert in light and magnetism, and he's got 2 videos on LEDs, why they're bad and such. So if you want more in-depth knowledge about that, I would watch those videos. I'd highly recommend them. I'll put them in the description. I don't know if I can link them here in the video, but they'll be in the right-hand corner if I can do that when I go to edit this bad boy. So I hope this was simple and informative. That was kind of the goal with this video. I try not to overthink this stuff or stress out too much about it. I do what I can and do what I can to avoid this stuff, and then do what I can to offset it. So you can't stress out about it too much, because then you're just causing more of a problem. It's the same thing like the quality of your food and such. Like, you do the best you can and try not to stress out about it, because you can't stress out about it probably too much, and that's not good for your health. Stress is terrible. So anyway, comments or questions, leave them below.